Right, so before I start, I'd just like to say that my mum's in the audience. So, yay! So please don't say fuck. Right, I don't know if you've noticed, but astronomy is really cool at the moment. Woo! Yay! Astronomy is really cool at the moment. I'll give you one example of it. Dark energy. Last month, the Nobel Prize for Physics was awarded to 3 astronomers for their discovery that the universe is accelerating as it's expanding. Because it's packed full of weird, wacky stuff called dark energy. Here are the 3 candidates, or winners. So he looks a bit like a space goblin, and these 2 guys are at a wedding. But I think these 3 guys really missed a trick. They called it dark energy because you can't see it. The precedent was set with dark matter because you can't see dark matter by its nature. You can't detect it. So they thought, well, okay, we can't detect this energy which is filling 75% of the universe. So let's call it dark. That is totally rubbish. They had a really awesome, and I mean awesome, this is the correct context for awesome, opportunity to name something, and they chose to call it dark energy. They could have called it the sherbet lemon effect, or the custard down your trousers field, or the crazy, mind-blowing, what the cock is going on energy. But they didn't. They chose to call it dark energy. As a professional astronomer, I do quite a lot of public talks, and after one of these public talks, somebody came up to me and they clearly didn't want to ask this question in front of the whole audience, so I thought, oh, okay, this is going to be slightly strange. They came up to me just one-to-one and said, now, dark energy, is that like the dark side of the Force? I'm sorry, are you saying, is the mechanism by which the space in between all matter is growing at an ever-increasing rate, is that like the eternal struggle between good and evil, like Old Testament temptation and the fall of man, like the Lilith, the screech owl of medieval folklore, like the bogeyman, Lord Voldemort, monsters under your bed, and Peter Mandelson? No, it's not like that, actually. So, so that's one example of why astronomy is cool at the moment. But the major reason why astronomy is cool is because of this guy. We like to call this the Cox effect. Who here loves cocks? Jolly good, thank you, Peter. So, Brian Cox, he's revolutionised and brought astronomy into the mainstream. It now occupies a prime time slot in the telly schedules. Previously, we had to rely on programmes like The Sky at Night and Horizon, which are more documentary things. I have a lot of respect for The Sky at Night, not only because one of the presenters is in the audience, but also because it's been around for about 106 years. And the format's very traditional, but it's been the workhorse of astronomy communication over the years. If you like, The Sky at Night is like presenting astronomy as a research academic paper, whereas Wonders of the Solar System, Wonders of the Universe, presents astronomy like Heat magazine would. But I can't help feeling that Brian Cox, he should have really capitalised on the height of his fame in 1997 when he had his one-hit wonder, Things Can Only Get Better, where the Labour Party rose into power at the general election. If he'd done that in 1997, I was an undergrad, and I was studying a degree in astrophysics. Now, as you can imagine, that went down a storm at student parties with the girls. It's a bit like going round to your neighbour's house when they've just had a new shag pile carpet freshly laid and walking dog shit all over it. It didn't go down at all well. And, well, everybody at these parties was studying really exciting things like, well, practical subjects like law and medicine and medieval ecclesiology, or really sexy things like music or philosophy or medieval ecclesiology. You very rarely bumped into another scientist. And if you did, they were that sort of nerdy scientist that would look furtively around the room and then pounce on you, tell you an incomprehensible joke, laugh like a braying donkey, and then nervously sip their Diet Coke whilst talking to themselves in Klingon. And aside from the Klingon, actually, that's been my experience of members of the Christian Union. That's intelligent design for you, I suppose. But if he'd done that 15 years ago, I even would have had a haircut for it, which you might not be able to see. But Anyway, when I'm at a party, and obviously I go to a lot of them, people often say, when I say an astronomer, immediately think of Patrick Moore. Hey, I suppose I could do more to dissuade them of that opinion. But overwhelmingly, when I say I'm an astronomer, people think of Russell Grant. Why? Why do people confuse astronomy and astrology? They sound the same, but so do God and dog. But at Christmas, you don't celebrate the birth of the puppy Jesus. So does Middlesex and Bumsex. You don't get those two confused on a dark night. And if you did, you're either very relieved or slightly appalled. Middlesex is an awful place. But astrology, right? So astronomy, it's the science of the universe. It's the Herculean quest to find the deeper physics behind all of nature through experimentation, observation, and careful dissemination of this information in a peer-reviewed way. Astrology has made no predictions that have ever come true. It's at best just a disappointing nonsense, like the weather forecast, or the Jeremy Kyle show, or Sherbet Dibdabs, or the ending of Lost, or Viennetta. Actually, it's very much like Viennetta when you think about it. Because Viennetta, it's a bit exciting, it's self-indulgent, it gives you a glimpse of a better life. But very soon you realise that it's shallow, empty, and basically a waste of money. It's just cheap chocolate on the top of cheap ice cream. But I have to confess, Russell Grant is a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine, because at the moment he's on Strictly Come Dancing, and he's dancing with one of the most sexy dancers in the whole of the world. So, but I'm not obsessive about it. We're not having conversations on Twitter or anything. Anyway, it's so aside from being called an astrologer every now and again, it's really cool to be an astronomer. Woo! Yeah, thank you. But it's also really cool to be me. Well, okay, it's really cool to be a geek because of geek chic. You know, Mylene Class over there, which you possibly can't see, she can pop on a big pair of glasses and a shrug on a cardigan and call herself a geek. No, there's more to it than that. I'm sorry, I've worked hard. Well, actually, I haven't worked hard. I've effortlessly been a geek over the years. You can't just sort of rock up and be a geek. You have to almost be born one. Like, take Quentin here. He's studying a degree in religious studies and eschatological knitting. I'm not convinced he's a geek. He can name 4 characters from Harry Potter films and sing the theme tune to Star Wars. No. Try being able to name any Star Trek episode with only 10 seconds of footage. And I mean Star Trek Next Generation, the original series isn't quite as good. You can name any Asterix character in English or French in the book that they appear in. You can reenact Victoria Wood's shoe shop sketch and do a passable impression of Julie Walters. You know how fast a DeLorean has to go in order so that you can go back in time and narrowly avoid being snogged by your mother. You know that you should never cross the streams. You've stayed up late arguing whether Gandalf or Merlin would win in a thumb war. You can communicate with an alien planet using a speak and spell, a bent coat hanger and a tube of Smarties. You can play on a swanny whistle the theme tune to Ulysses 31 or Cities of Gold. You know what TARDIS stands for and you can name 4 other Time Lords other than the Doctor and Quentin or whatever the hell your name is. You always know where your towel is. Until that point, Quentin, you are not worthy to walk in the halls of Geek Arcadia. So you can take your skinny jeans and your floppy hair and you can piss off. This is what geek chic looks like. Thank you for coming.